July 1994. Still a telemarketer. May or may not be still seeing an older woman. I don't remember at this point. Uh, I know we didn't last a year. Just don't remember how long it lasted. But anyway, that's all the background I really have. So let's jump into the books. And book number one for July of 1994 is The Cleanup by John Skipp and Craig Spector. First book I ever read by them. Love this book. It's about Billy Rowe, a musician in New York City who is sitting out on his fire escape and sees a crime and wishes that he could have done something about it, wishes he could make the world a better place. And an angel comes and offers him the power to change the world. Anything he thinks of, he can make happen. But of course, I don't use air quotes willy-nilly. This angel isn't what it seems. These powers aren't what they seem. There's a darkness, there's horror. It's an incredible book. Absolutely love it. The Cleanup, one that I definitely have to reread soon. Book number 2, Mephisto in Onyx by Harlan Ellison. This is a novella. It had a cover by Frank Miller, which was a big selling point at the time, and an introduction by Frank Miller as well. But it's about this guy who has telepathic abilities. Apparently the only telepath in the world. And a friend of his who is a DA asks him to help her out because there's this serial killer that's on death row. She has fallen in love with the guy, and she wants her friend to use his telepathic powers to get into the mind of this serial killer and see if she wants him to prove that this killer is innocent. Harlan Ellison, great writer, so, it's going to be an interesting story. I think I remember how it ends. I'm not going to tell you what I think. Obviously, I don't want to spoil it. Man, I looked on Amazon. The only copy of this book was a German copy. So I don't know how easy this would be for anyone to find. So unless I find a review that spoils it, I can't even verify whether or not I remember the ending correctly. But it's a good book. Book number 3. Another one that I actually have here. Mucho Mojo, Joe R. Lansdale. This is the second Hap and Leonard book, and the first Hap and Leonard book that I read, and it blew me away. Absolutely love this book. Love the characters. If you've watched my videos, you know how much I love Lansdale, how much I love Hap and Leonard. And in this one, Hap and Leonard are cleaning out Leonard's uncle's house after his uncle has died. I think that's who it is. And they find a small skeleton wrapped up in the pages of porno mags. And Hap is like, hey, let's call the cops. Leonard's like, hell no, we're not calling the cops. So they have to figure out who this dead child is and basically clear Leonard's uncle's name. It's amazing. These characters are amazing. I could just read them, a whole book of them just having conversations. Highly, highly recommended. It's a novel of suspense, and it's fantastic. It's possibly my favorite Hap and Leonard. I haven't finished reading all of them, but yeah, it just maybe because it's the first one I read with these characters, it made such an impression on me. But so good, and there's a nice recurring joke with a crack house. Book number 4, Replay by Ken Grimwood. This is about a guy. Did I write down his name? I didn't write anything down. Anyway, it's about a guy who dies and wakes up 25 years earlier. He's 18. He's in college, and he lives his life again. for another 25 years, and then he dies, and then he wakes up again 18 years old. And so he keeps replaying these 25 years, making different decisions, changing his life, changing things over and over again. So a 25-year time loop, essentially. Um, what's funny is I watch videos for a channel called Media Death Cult. I've mentioned them before, and it's a guy that really, really does great, great reviews of science fiction. And this is a book that he had mentioned. I forget why this came up. He was either it was on like his top 100 science fiction books, or he was talking about time loop and time travel stuff, and said this was great. And I actually looked it up and put it on my wish list. It's on my Amazon wish list, and I had no recollection that I had read this. But when I was right before doing the video, when I looked it up to see what the book was, because I did not remember, before I typed it in on Amazon, it hit me. It's like, wait a minute, I think this is that book that I put on my wish list, and it is. I definitely want to reread it. It sounded interesting when the guy from Media Death Cult talked about it, and I don't remember how well I liked it, but obviously I've read it. But I love time loop stuff, so definitely one I'm gonna pick up and reread. Next up, we have The Magic Wagon by Joe R. Lansdale. I thought I had a copy of this, but I cannot find it. It might be in an anthology, Joe Lansdale, or I guess it wouldn't be an anthology, a Joe Lansdale collection with some other stuff. I don't recall. Used to have a copy of it. But this is about a 17-year-old named Buster Fogg who joins this traveling wagon show called The Magic Wagon. It's an Old West story. And, it's run by a couple con artists, and they've got sideshows and all this other stuff. And it's just an interesting, great Joe Lansdale Western through the eyes of this 17-year-old Buster Fogg. And then finally, so not a lot, just 6 books in July, which is still 3 times better than June. Carnal Hours by Max Allan Collins. Excuse me. This is a Nathan Heller story. So, as usual with the Nathan Heller books, it is based on a true crime that I believe is unsolved, which is typically what he does. He researches, does all this stuff, and writes his private detective Nathan Heller into these stories, and basically ends with what he believes is the most logical solution. In this case, it's the 40s in the Caribbean, and it is the story of the murder of Sir Harry Oakes, which again is true, but the ending is Max Allan Collins, what he thinks is the most logical solution to this unsolved crime, which involves the British royal family and I assume mobsters and criminals. The Nathan Heller books, are great. I like the idea of him doing these fictionalized versions of these unsolved famous crimes, but putting his ending to it, essentially saying, this is what I think is the most logical solution to the crime. So yeah, I recommend the Nathan Heller books. And pretty much anything by Max Allan Collins. Great, great writer. But that's it. Just 6 books. Got some horror, got some suspense and mystery, got some sci-fi. A nice mix, I think. So, question for this video. What do you think of true crime? Let's go with that. It's hugely popular nowadays. I was just talking about podcasts with my mother. She had some questions, and I just happened to say I think 90% of podcasts are true crime podcasts. slight exaggeration, but hear about them all the time. I know a bunch of people that love true crime stuff. Um, of course, in this case, the Max Allan Collins book, it's fictionalized, but it is based on true crime. I used to be much more interested in it than I am now, uh, and especially in like serial killers, but not so much anymore. I do have a book by the guys from last podcast on the left, which is all about serial killers, I think, not just unsolved crimes, but serial killers specifically, which I'll read. I don't shy away from it, but I'm not champing at the bit, as it were, for more true crime. I am interested in the book. Man, I just heard about it today, too. Someone mentioned it, but I don't remember the title or the author's name. Her last name is McNamara. It's Patton Oswalt's deceased wife, about the Golden Gate Killer. That book interests me because it's not just about the crimes, the unsolved crimes, but it's about her obsession, for lack of a better word, with this particular unsolved serial killer case. So that one I actually wouldn't mind picking up and reading. But generally, I can take it or leave it. I've been leaving it a lot lately. But what are your thoughts? Is it something that interests you? Are you, as I said, I know a few people that are almost obsessed with true crime. They read so much of it. The one of the podcasts I listen to, These Are Their Stories, which is a Law and Order podcast. The hosts of that are true crime authors. They have a bunch of true crime books. So yeah, it's a big thing. What are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments or questions or corrections, put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All that YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me in other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is ErikSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That is all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.